Mary's pregnancy became the perfect shield, a mask for the chaos simmering beneath the surface. John doted on her, showering her with affection, while Abigail maintained her quiet yet dominant presence in the household. To the outside world, they were a happy family, expectant parents with a supportive sister. But within the walls of their home, lies intertwined with guilt, and every smile was a carefully curated performance. As her pregnancy progressed, Mary found it harder to keep her emotions in check. The tiny life growing inside her was a constant reminder of her betrayal. Her love for John, steady and unyielding despite their years of struggle, warred with the overpowering pull Abigail had over her. During the day, she found herself staring at John when he wasn't looking, the weight of her deceit pressing down on her like a vice. At night, she often lay awake, haunted by the thought of what would happen if he ever learned the truth. "I can't keep living like this," Mary confessed to Abigail one evening. They were in Abigail's apartment now, where they often met in secret since Abigail had moved out. "You're overthinking," Abigail replied smoothly, her legs crossed as she lounged on the sofa. "John doesn't suspect a thing." Mary shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "It's not just about John. It's about me. I feel like I'm drowning in guilt. I can't look at him without feeling like the worst person in the world." Abigail's expression darkened. She stood and approached Mary, placing her hands firmly on Mary's shoulders. "Listen to me," she said, her voice low and commanding. "You can't tell him. Not now. Not ever. Do you hear me?" Mary nodded weakly, but deep down, she wasn't sure how much longer she could keep the secret. John, meanwhile, was beginning to notice inconsistencies. Mary's mood swings were one thing, he chalked those up to pregnancy hormones, but there were other signs he couldn't ignore. She was evasive, reluctant to talk about the baby, and her affection toward him felt forced, like she was holding back. Then there was Abigail. Despite her helpfulness, John couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. He often caught her watching Mary with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. One day, he decided to confide in his parents. He called them from his office, his voice hushed. "Have you noticed anything strange about Abigail lately?" he asked. There was a long pause on the other end of the line before his mother finally spoke. "John, there's something you need to know about Abigail." What followed was a flood of revelations: Abigail's intersex condition, the secrecy surrounding her childhood, and the resentment she had harbored toward him for years. John was stunned. "Why didn't you tell me any of this?" "We thought it was for the best," his mother said, her voice thick with regret. "We didn't want you to grow up hating her." Hating her? John thought bitterly. He didn't even know her. As he hung up the phone, a cold realization settled over him. Abigail wasn't just a troubled sibling seeking redemption. She was a threat, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Abigail knew her time was running out. Mary's growing guilt was a ticking time bomb, and she couldn't risk her secret being exposed before she had the chance to destroy John completely. She had always intended to reveal the truth about the child, but only when the timing was right, when the betrayal would cut the deepest. She wanted John broken beyond repair, consumed by the knowledge that his perfect life was a lie. But for now, she needed Mary to stay silent. And if Mary wouldn't comply willingly, Abigail would ensure her silence by any means necessary. It was a cold winter evening when the facade finally cracked. John had come home early to pick up a file he had forgotten, only to hear voices coming from the kitchen. He paused just outside the doorway, his heart sinking as he realized it was Mary and Abigail. Their voices were low, but the tension was palpable. "You don't understand," Mary was saying, her voice trembling. "I can't keep this secret anymore. John deserves the truth." Abigail's voice was sharp and venomous. "If you tell him, you'll ruin everything. Do you want to destroy him? Is that what you want?" John's breath caught in his throat. His mind raced as he pieced together the fragments of their conversation. When Abigail mentioned the baby, his stomach turned. "No," he whispered to himself, refusing to believe what he was hearing. But deep down, he knew. That night, John called his parents again. This time, his voice was steady, cold. "Is it true?" he demanded. "Everything you told me about Abigail, was it true?" His father sighed heavily. "Yes, John. It's all true. We didn't handle things well, and for that, we're sorry. But Abigail, she's always had a darkness in her." John hung up without another word. He sat in the silence of his car for what felt like hours, trying to process the enormity of what he had learned. His wife, his sister, the baby, it was all tangled in a web of lies and betrayal. But John wasn't ready to confront them. Not yet. Watch out for part 2. Please like and subscribe to watch stories like this.